Swiss inventor Isaac de Rivas. So here we are 203 years later, and we're still trying to apply hydrogen fuel from water to an automobile. But based on the presence of the exhibitors outside and even inside here, it's technology that's fast coming of age after such a long delay. So what we'd like to do today is allow people who are here to present their hydrogen booster or whatever other technology they brought here. Also things having to do with alternative health remedies. This conference is also dedicated to that. And in fact, the technologies can be very closely related. And I'll just give you an example of that. About 6 years ago, I was bitten by a brown recluse spider. I don't know if anyone's had that unfortunate experience. It's a spider that lives in Kentucky. I don't know where else in the world it lives. And it lives in dark places. So I was underneath a house, I think, or tearing up an old house. It was termite damaged or something. And I managed to get bit by this thing on my forearm. Well, the brown recluse spider bite is one that basically kills the flesh that is affected. And the medical profession really has no remedy for it. They'll give you a tetanus shot, perhaps, and then basically do plastic surgery later to replace the part of your body that has decayed because of the poison. Well, this bite, it had a large red circle around it, and I realized it was getting worse, so I got on the internet to see if there wasn't some alternative method to deal with it, because it was obvious that the medical books I had and whatnot didn't hold any promise for treating it. Well, it turns out here's an article from the British medical journal called The Lancet, which corresponds to the American medical journal here known as JAMA, I think, or what do they call it? Yeah, the Journal of the American Medical Association. Well, in England, theirs is called The Lancet. And in that journal was an article that said that not only recluse spider bite, but snake bites, scorpion bites, and so on can be treated by a high voltage discharge passing through the flesh affected by the bite. So I got my wife to crank an engine over while I held my arm on the block and used a spark plug wire to shock myself around the area of that bite. Well, you know, that red circle disappeared, and the bite, the effects of it went away, right away. Within 24 hours, it was obvious that it was better. And the interesting thing about this article, which you can probably still access on the internet, it said that it was a farmer in the United States who was allergic to bee stings. And he got stung by a bee, and somehow, as he was in a hurry to get to a doctor for the treatment, he managed to touch his, the part of his body that was stung accidentally hit the electric fence. And he noticed that the allergic reaction stopped. So isn't it interesting that by accident a remedy was discovered that has to do with a high voltage discharge, and now you would think after all these years it would be applied universally, but it isn't. I mean, have you all ever heard of this? No one's ever, okay, so there's a couple people heard of this remedy? But this is just an example of how advanced medical technology involving a high voltage discharge it's doable, but how many people know about it? And how many people would, oh, that's ridiculous. And really stop and analyze, why is it that a high voltage discharge would cause the poison from this spider bite to become neutralized or whatever? Well, apparently there's some on the ions or whatever. I'm not a chemist, I don't claim to understand of this treatment. But again, the connection between alternative health remedies and alternative energy is that this same kind of high voltage discharge can affect the gases that come out of water when you pass them through electrolysis. It's an additional treatment of the hydrogen and oxygen gases that makes them more suitable as a fuel in our cars, for example. So it's amazing that this kind of connection exists, but it does, and both technologies are suppressed. In other words, the official establishment is not recommending that you shock yourself when you get a spider bite. They would rather you have a tetanus shot and then plastic surgery. And the powers that be don't want you running your car on a free fuel from water either. So there really is a connection. Yes, sir?
2 years trying to cure one.
Really? Okay, so a gentleman here has...
2 years to get cured of.
Yeah,
Very dangerous.
and it's something that you have to do immediately.
Usually after the fight, a bunch of little white blisters will form around the hole where the original bite is, and that's a good clue that's a brown recluse.
Yeah, so he's describing the effects of one of these spider bites. Well, from what I understand, in the jungles of South America, they are using this remedy of a spark plug wire discharge to save people's lives from snake bite. There's so many snake bites down there, people dying left and right in the river region, the Amazon, and so on, and they all have their outboard motors. So all you have to do is ground the part of your body opposite the bite, and then pass the current from that arc through the flesh. So, like I got bit on my arm, so I put my arm on the block of the engine, and then I did about 5 or 6 jolts around the area of the bite, so that the current passed through the area that was affected by the poison.
How high did you jump?
Yeah, and my wife was really squeamish, because she was turning the key on this. It was a two-cylinder. It was a two-cylinder, I think a Kawasaki engine, and she had to crank it as I was shocking myself. And so obviously, some of the voltages that we're dealing with here are enough to kill you, and especially in view of Bill Cozzolino's revelation this past week, where he's welding. He's able to weld with milliamps of current using capacitors, and something along the lines of these high voltage discharges, what they call plasma arc discharge. And some are familiar with the Firestorm spark plug, where they're trying to achieve this. And so the idea is that if you have an intense arc experience in your engine, then you'll get better fuel mileage. You need less fuel. You can more efficiently burn the gasoline in your engine if you have a better spark. Something far better than what the spark plug companies typically tell you.
A quantum level he's working at, right? Firestorm?
Is that what you're saying? A quantum?
Quantum level he's on Firestorm spark plug, yes.
Okay. So Bill Cozzolino is in Washington State, and he's just posted on the internet some videos showing his experiments. And so he's releasing this information. In fact, he'd be here today if it wasn't so far. I'm sure he'd be here gladly sharing this information. But this is an example of a technology that